Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I think she's yapping. So she said, get it going, Mary. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. First, I want to say thank you to everyone that is here today. And what I'd like to do now is just do roll call for all of us. Do we have a representative here with the City of Dinuba? City of Exeter, do we have someone here from City of Exeter? No. City of Farmersville, anyone here? Yes? Araceli? Okay. Araceli, are you the designated one? Yes, perfect. City of Porterville, of course. Awesome. City of Tulare? Yes. City of Visalia, Margie?
Proxy.
Perfect. Housing Authority, Saya. Kings Tulare Area Agency on Aging, perfect. Kings Tulare Housing Alliance, thank you, Alicia. Tulare County Board of Supervisors, pending. Tulare County Health and Human Services Agency. Okay, perfect, come up to the table. Sorry. Tulare County Office of Education, awesome, welcome. Tulare County Regional Transit Agency, awesome, thank you. Derek. Okay, you're the proxy, Derek?
Actually, I'm a new appointment.
Oh, welcome. Awesome. Tulare County Sheriff's Office, if you would like to come to the table again, you'd also welcome to. And Tule River Indian, perfect, thank you. Unincorporated Community Representative, thank you. Affordable Housing Developer, awesome. Youth Advisory Board. Community Action Agency, that is myself, Mary Alice Escarcega-Ciset. Faith-Based Community, awesome. Lived experience of homelessness. I think that's someone we're still looking for, right?
No, that is Henry.
Henry. Medical services representative. Thank you. Partner. Partner. Who represents the partners? And then, of course, our veterans representative. Awesome. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I believe we have a quorum. Anthony? Thank you. Perfect. Next, we'd like to open it up for public comments, and what we'd like individuals who are responding to something that is not on the agenda. There'll be opportunity for folks to respond during that time. But if you have any public comments, you have up to 3 minutes to provide that public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to do a public comment? Do we have any on Facebook or anything?
We haven't received any electronic ones, but I'm curious, there is a member here that is also a member of the California Interagency Council on Homelessness. I wonder if she might mind if I put her on the spot just to speak a little bit about that new role.
Testing, I'm just kidding. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Nolan McDermott. I am the Executive Director for the Tule River Indian Housing Authority and then the Tribal Representative for the Tule River Tribe. This appointment is very new to me as part of the committee. So right now we're just going through kind of getting my feet wet, so to say, and learning more about the California Interagency Council. So we've had a few things come across, well, through email to look at during this comment period, and we will be having a meeting here, I believe the first week of September. So looking forward to that and getting more information and insight. And I know the one of the things they constantly speak to is addressing and hopefully at some point ending homelessness. So I'm excited to be, appointed in this new role as the, I believe it's the Southern Area Tribal Representative. So I will definitely keep you updated as, you know, as the meetings continue, because I think we have 4 quarterly meetings a year. So, thank you.
I was about to say that we probably would love to have you be on our agenda every quarter as things are popping up so that you can keep us all updated. We're so excited that you're there. Next, I'd like us to review the minutes from our last meeting in June 18th. And did everyone have a chance to review the minutes? Are there any edits or suggested changes? Okay. Oh, there's no minutes. Okay, yeah, because with the emails that go out, you do receive the entire packet. Do you all feel comfortable? Did you have a chance to review them? Would you like me to hold off for the next meeting? Or did enough of you review them to not have any concerns with accepting the minutes as presented in the email?
You
Yeah,
want
we
to
can
put it,
dump-
or you want me to motion to go ahead and pass? I mean, go ahead.
It's up to the group. I would
I
prefer,
read-
if people don't feel comfortable, we can always add it to our next agenda. I have no problem with that if people have not read them.
I mean, I read it from my standpoint, and I'm okay with that. So
You're okay?
I motion for it to go to pass. Accept it.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Any additional discussion? Okay. Any abstentions? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next, we have the point in time 2025 results, and I believe, Leticia, you're going to present those to us?
Can everybody hear me? Great. So hi, my name is Leticia. I work with the Kings Tulare Homeless Alliance, and I'm the executive director. So I will be going over the point-in-time report for 2025. We conducted the point-in-time in January. It was the last week of January. And we really looked at that full week of that last week of January. It is a requirement for all continuum of care on homelessness to conduct a point in time. We usually do ours every year as a Kings and Tulare County. HUD does allow us to do one every other year, but it's really important to be able to kind of see some trends, so we just conduct it every year. And we have a great turnout of volunteers to support the count. And so we count folks who are sheltered and unsheltered. So those who are living in a shelter are considered sheltered. So we do look at our 10-year trend. And so we can see that in Tulare County, we counted 1,170 folks who were experiencing homelessness. It did go down. So the year before it was 1,260. And I'm happy to answer any questions. If you have thoughts or concerns, please feel free to raise your hand. I think it's important to talk about these numbers. But this is our 10-year trend for Tulare County. And if you conducted the point in time, feel free to talk as well, because it is always important to get some feedback from folks. And then this is our 10-year chronic homeless trend. We did see a slight increase from 387 to 410. And so you can see the definition of chronic homelessness on the slide. It really is, it's a HUD definition, so people who have a disability and have been homeless for over a year. It does go on a little bit lengthier, so in the last 3 years, 4 occasions that can equal 12 months. And we do ask specific questions to determine if someone has a disability and how long they've been homeless. So there's 410 folks in Tulare County who are chronically homeless. The city distribution, so we did see a slight decrease in Porterville. It's a 13.6%, and there are 267 folks who we counted in 2024. You can see in blue, there was 309. In Tulare, there was an increase of 7.3%, so 324, as opposed to 302. There is a shelter there now, so encampment, so that could possibly be why there was an increase in the city of Tulare. In Visalia, we saw a 12.6 decrease, so 587 in 2024 and 513 this year. And the balance of county, and these are smaller jurisdictions, we saw a slight 6.5 increase, so from 62 to 66. And so these are the smaller communities. If you'd like numbers, I do have them. I just didn't have it on these PowerPoint, but there was 24 folks in Dinuba that we counted. The year before, there was 26. There's 7 in Early Mart, 9 in Exeter, 8 in Farmersville, 1 in Ivanhoe, one in Lemon Cove, 6 in Lindsay, 3 in Strathmore, and 2 in Woodlake.
Excuse me, Leticia. Those numbers, when you say 24 to 26, are they the same individuals or are they different individuals? Some have
From the year
gone.
before?
Yes, ma'am.
And from this year?
Yeah,
It could be that they're the same folks.
okay.
I would have to look at who we counted and match the names, but I wouldn't know just from numbers if they're the same folks.
All right, thank you.
No problem. But that is a good question. And so the data for chronic homelessness, it does show that folks have been homeless for over a year, and so they could be the same folks that we counted the year before. For the household composition, green is 2024, blue is 2025. So 64 folks with children and adults, and then 1,106 without children. And for the gender, we did count 2 for culturally specific identity, 1 gender nonconforming, 1 transgender, 428 females, and 732 males. And this has been very similar with usually more men than women who experience homelessness in Tulare County. And the age group, so we counted 442 folks who were between the ages of 0 to 17, 73 who were 18 to 24, 179 who were 25 to 34, 353 who were 35 to 44. From previous years, that age group is the highest in the last couple of years. And then it does start to slow down. So 247 from ages 45 to 54, 203 for 55 to 64, and 40 folks, 65 to 69, and 26, 70 plus. Any questions on the age? I do find it interesting that the 35 to 45 is always the highest, and then it starts to decline. I don't know where folks are going, if they're getting housed, but that is a typical decrease. Race, so we counted 539 who were white, 4 Middle Eastern, 14 who were Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, 594 who were Hispanic Latino, 94 who were Black African American, 10 Asian, and the 76 American Indian and Alaskan Native. And currently fleeing domestic violence. This was a slight, actually it was a large decrease of 47% from 2024, so 151 from 2024 were experiencing domestic violence, and 80 We counted 80 this year of people fleeing from domestic violence. So there was a big decrease.
So are these individuals that are actually on the street, or are we counting the ones that are in a shelter for domestic violence?
So I could have broken it down, and in the point-in-time report, it does show who's unsheltered and who's sheltered, but this includes all sheltered and unsheltered. That is a really good question, and I can certainly bring that up for next time, but we do have, we are able to show it in the point-in-time report.
Do you know about the percent that's sheltered versus unsheltered, just the total?
I do. In our point-in-time report, it shows, I didn't include it in this report, but yes, it is in the point-in-time. I don't think I have it here. Thank you. And while Noah's looking for it, we did count for the tribal affiliation. So we counted 55 folks who said yes and 644 who said no. I did look at these numbers beforehand, and the majority of the folks were counted in Porterville, so closer to, obviously, Tulare River, and then there were a couple of folks who were in the city of Tulare. And then just so you all know, the point-in-time report is on our website. If you go to kthomelessalliance.org, you can find it where it says point in time, and then there's the 2025. Reasons for homelessness. So we do ask folks what their reasons were. We've done this for many, many years, and so it's very typical, but we had 49 who refused. 109 said that it was for unemployment reasons, for substandard housing. 131 said for no affordable housing, or not enough affordable housing. 39 mentioned mental health as their barrier. 27 as a medical condition. 4 folks said that they lost their benefits, and that was the reason. 30 for a hospital discharge. 30 for jail or prison, and 3 for hospital discharge. 4 for foreclosure. We did see that 73 answered yes for eviction, and 33 for drug or alcohol, 34 for domestic violence, 54 for divorce, 103 for argument with family or friends, and then 2 for aged out of foster care.
Comparison from the prior year, or is the numbers, is there a shift at all?
I just checked right before I came here, and the popular ones, or the ones that we typically see, are unemployment and no affordable housing. Those are the 2 that are the highest, that are typically the highest. Also the argument with friend or family. Yeah, those 3 are usually, have been at the top in the last couple of years. I can look back. I think that it was about the same. It wasn't any higher than, it wasn't very high, but very similar to the numbers that we have here. And I can certainly look back. And then there's one that didn't catch my numbers here, but so place slept last night. So we do ask this question to everyone. And I can't see my slide over there, but we saw 890 folks who slept on the street. It's typical. That number is always high. 79 were counted in transitional housing, and 201 were staying at an emergency shelter. For veterans, we did count 43 veterans who said yes. We can't verify because it's a quick 10-minute survey. Sometimes it's less than 10 minutes, but 43 said that yes, they were veterans. I think that's something that we'd like to look into, we can see names, so we can see, as long as they gave us their name, we probably can look to see if they actually are a veteran and if they qualify for some services. So that is something that, one population that we'd like to look at least I'd like to look at to see if we can support them. And for disabling condition, 483 said that they had a disability. And for self-reported health, we've called this barriers in the past, but I changed it. It sounded strange, different. So, and then my numbers didn't actually pool. So folks who said that they reported HIV or AIDS is 12 folks. 455 reported a mental illness, and 428 reported a substance abuse. So barriers for possibly moving into housing.
Guess we can say discrimination based on their medical condition?
Possibly.
Yeah.
It can be hard to house folks who may have a mental illness or substance use if they're not ready to meet a landlord. Maybe they don't have enough funds in their bank account or things like that. It certainly can be a barrier. And that is the end of the point in time report. The report is on our website, so you can really delve a little bit deeper into the numbers. But does anyone have any questions or concerns or thoughts?
I guess one of the questions that I had, and maybe it's more of a comment too, is that we have these numbers now and we actually have names connected to some of them, looking at ways, especially like the veterans and those that self-disclose a disability, that we have programs that if you have a disability and you're unhoused, those are some things that we would be able to follow up on because there are programs for some of those things. And I don't know if they don't have the documentation, but they're the ones that we probably could get into housing potentially faster. So I guess that's kind of for me is that we're like, is it an additional, I know it's hard to get volunteers on that day. Is there a way to say, okay, you just said this, can we get you an appointment? I don't know, those are some things.
It's hard for,
Where you've captured them and you're capturing this data, but how can we use the data a little bit more, I guess, for me?
So I'll comment to that, Mary. I think because it's an HMIS, it's easy to cross-reference if they already have a case manager. So that could be a starting point if they already have a case manager and just to see what services they're already receiving and then working with the rest.
Sorry. So I got this report and I was trying to look at it and do my own analysis, looking at HHSA and where does HHSA fall within the overarching picture of this report, which I don't think in the past we have spent that much time doing that. We've put things in place over the last several years to really beef up our outreach. Noah and his team do a lot of work and do great work and go, I believe, above and beyond just the outreach efforts. We try to help where we can. So what I'm trying to figure out is how do we get this information compared to how many housing we built within the same period of time, to how many people were actually street homeless that got a place to live versus other people that were on a list that may be number 225 on a list that's not technically street homeless, but we actually place them. So trying to get some data around where our efforts are and how do we really make a dent in this. And I will just say, so for those of you who don't watch The Governor, I do every day, I'm kind of tired of it already, but nonetheless, I want to know what's being said. He did call out Tulare County and gave us kudos because Tulare did decrease our homeless. I know, I was shocked too. I was like, oh, thank you. Because last year it's, I'm gonna take all your money away unless you guys do something. And I feel like Tulare County, and Amy spoke to it today very nicely in her address with the city of Visalia. I guess for me, I wanna know what we can do better in making sure that we're hitting the points where we have control. And so I think maybe going back to Mary, your comment, I know we've talked about this over the last 12 months on how can we better provide data that makes sense on all of our efforts, because we're all doing a lot of work and trying to do our best. And I'm just trying to get to a place where I personally can make decisions on how do we help with bridging the gap. And for mental illness, I do have Dr. Bolin here today. We have a 136 bed coming online. So I know we reported out a couple of months ago that we were increasing our bed capacity at Casa Grande for substance use disorder to 16 beds. That's the cap the state sets, by the way, for a facility, before you get into a whole nother bunch of complex rules. But that's in addition to the 60 bed for the larger property for the augmented mental health rehabilitation center. But because they did get the bond round one, Prop 1 bond round $1, $12 million, they're expanding another section of that property to add conservatorship 60 bed capacity. So in totality, the Casa Grande will offer an additional 136 beds. So obviously when I look at these numbers, I'm like, how many mental health, how many substance use disorder people? If we were to pull them out of the totality of the numbers, where would we land at the end of the day? And so just some points on that piece. But I think data, I thrive with data because that tells me decision points that we can make. And so maybe we could work on that over the next couple of months. Just a thought.
And kind of following up with being able to identify who might be self-reported as mental health SUDs, doing that targeted outreach, so utilizing the data into practice, I think would be a great next step. I know calling out different areas like veterans, very specific populations would be a good next step to look at doing that targeted outreach.
Yeah, we can look at some of the names as long as they reported their names. Not everybody chooses to, but we can certainly look at specific populations and see where, if they fit in different projects. Sometimes projects have very specific requirements, and sometimes folks don't want to follow those requirements, which I think that's kind of where it does affect the flow and the support, if there's really these required kind of pieces to, I guess, the puzzle. Like even with veterans, if they're dishonorably discharged, they wouldn't qualify for a HUD bash, and they also have to have a medical condition, and they also have to go all the way to Fresno, to the VA. And when we've spoken with veterans, typically they don't want to go all the way out there because they're scared. They don't know if they're going to be able to come back. So that's just an example, but certainly we can look at specific populations and see how we can support them. We can also dig deeper into HMIS and I think Claudia, you mentioned this, so kind of comparing the folks that self-reported versus, and see who they're working with in HMIS in the system. Because they might have already been referred, but we can try to refer them again to specific programs.
There was the question around individuals fleeing domestic violence. There was 80 individuals total that reported they were fleeing domestic violence. Of those, 6 or 7.5% were sheltered, 74 or 92.5% were unsheltered. And then I forget what the other question was on the previous data.
I think it was the total unsheltered.
I asked that one. I liked your first graph of the 10-year trend. It'd be nice to see percent sheltered over 10 years or something. Just to.
I thought about doing that, and it was late last night. I didn't, but I should have done it. I know. One more minute, I could have done it.
So for those that reported being sheltered, unhoused, 280 out of 1170 for that portion, so 24%. Yep, and unsheltered were 890.
And I guess I kind of go back to what Donna said, is that we had all these fabulous projects for the first time between the lofts, the Majestic, and all of these programs that finally we actually had housing. I mean, we opened up in November and we were having people already move into housing in January and February. That never happens. The stars aligned. And I think for us, that's another layer to this story. I think for us is to begin to kind of, I guess I feel like it's a bone and we added one layer. Now there's an opportunity to add this other layer of a story to say what we're doing. And then when Casa Grande hits, I think it's going to be fantastic. Because I think you're right. I think, and I'm just glad the governor finally noticed that we are doing some good work in Tulare County. But I think every community is meeting the needs locally. I think what Porterville is doing, what Tulare is doing, what Visalia is doing. And I think all of us working closely with the county for the balance of county to make sure we're meeting everybody's needs. So this is a fantastic story, but it tells a piece of it. And I think it's important that we can continue to tell that other pieces of story and sharing the individual stories of people, because these are people. They're numbers, but they're people. And there's a lot of lives that are impacted, and those that are still challenged, and those that are being housed, and how do we keep them housed is important. So, but thank you. I know it's a lot of work, a lot of volunteers, and I think it's fantastic that we do it annually. I know it's always hard.
Thank you. And I do want to say that we've housed over 300 folks in the last 2 to 3 years with all the housing developments that we've had. So if you really think at like Fincus Arena, Madsen, the Majestics, the Lofts, Santa Fe Commons, 1 and 2, and then Dinuba, I can't remember those names, the projects in Dinuba that are super beautiful, and Sierra Village and Sequoia Village in Visalia, and then the Salt and Light Neighborhood Village, thank you. And a lot of those projects, they did set aside quite a bit of units for people who are experiencing homelessness, but also it's affordable housing. So we also had other folks that didn't go through CES, but did get housing. So it did support the work that we do. It's hard because we don't see like this large dent but we're seeing a small decrease, and we know that people were housed and are happy and are thriving. Yeah, thank you.
Back to our chair.
Thank you, folks. Sorry I'm late. I don't know if they know why I'm late. Do you know why I'm late?
You were talking to
I won't tell you. No, we did a state of local government today that the chamber sponsored, Supervisor McCary and I, along with Mayor Taylor and Vice Mayor Wynn. Something we do every year, kind of like a state of the county, city put together. So thank you. All right, our next item is HAP 6 applications and ad hoc funding committee update by Mr. Whitaker.
Changed back. Okay, we have some handouts going around. We should have a total of 40 copies, so hopefully we've got enough for all of our guests in the back of the room. There's 2 sort of components to this part of the handout. One of them is an email that was sent out in July following the ad hoc meeting, where in our last task force meeting, there was a vote to bring together an ad hoc committee to determine funding allocations. So that's what that email is, along with the attached numbers. Just to sort of recap that, some of the constraints that the committee were given were really that we had to focus on interim housing, we had to look at data from all of the interim housing sites, and if over the next 4 fiscal years, any of the interim housings sites had funding gaps, we had to apply our funding into it. So we did fund multiple sites, or we're proposing to fund. On Tuesday, our ask of the Tulare County Board of Supervisors to apply for this funding will go before them. If approved, we will then be submitting next week. The application due date is next Friday, but we're really well positioned to hit submit on that form. The financial breakdown in here shows the waterfall effect over the different fiscal years as to each of these different interim housing sites' fiscal position and how much money we would need to insert within there. One of the conversations that we had, although it didn't get huge efficiencies, it did get a little bit of an efficiency. Rather than the Homeless Alliance and the county funding every site, we looked at our allocations and determined that the Homeless Alliance will do the 100% of the funding need for the Visalia Navigation Center, so the county then won't do an additional contract and fund the Navigation Center as well. So that just saves everybody one contract, which is quite a bit of work. But it also, I think, highlights how we collaborate here, where we don't have to sliver off all of our funding if we work collaboratively and we meet the need. So the recommendations of the committee were contained in that email. The main decision was to fully fund all of these interim housing sites for the first 2 fiscal years. When we get to the 3rd fiscal year, we didn't have enough of a HAP application to meet the full need. So then we distributed funding based off of a percentage of the request. All committee members felt that this was a fair allocation methodology. So this is what we then put forward. So before I go into the rest of the HAP I'll go to the rest of the HAP discussion, and then at the end of it, I would love if the group would entertain the notion of taking a vote to approve our funding allocations as part of our application, and then we'll just sort of advance from there. So our funding plan itself, again, we have state priorities. These are really honed into interim housing, and then if you had funds left over, you could go into permanent housing. That wasn't the case. When we look at the funding itself, I thought it's helpful to show KTHA's allocations as well as ours, and I'll just try and propel through this pretty rapidly because this information is very straightforward. These are screenshots from the application itself showing specifically what is the activity itself, how is it being applied, what's the dollar amount, and then are there system improvement metrics associated with it or not. The system performance metrics are established by the state, and we just have to attach them to our different programs. So for KTHA, we have some administrative costs that come right off the bat. The next funding that they have is some partial funding to help the homeless management information system. We then come into the youth set-aside, which is a 10% set-aside of the funds themselves. So they're looking at rapid rehousing rental subsidies in tune of just over $200,000. Funding to help in support of the Visalia Navigation Center to do that fiscal gap filling for the next 2.5 fiscal years, almost $1.2 million, which is fantastic. That's a pretty good amount of funding. Eden House, another almost $70,000 in funding to help with that. And then this last activity, because they are by county, in Hanford specifically, the Barbara Seville shelter is in need of some operational funding as well. So that's in the tune of $416,000. When we look at Tulare County's allocations, we have 5 different uses of our allocations. Our first is our ongoing youth set-aside funds, which go into support the Transitional Housing Plus program, which is in our foster care and adoptions. This has helped to house 9 youth since we started doing this activity. So that's fantastic. It pretty much doubles the population that they're able to serve through the program. And this is off of $150,000. Our next is still interim housing, the Visalia Warming Center. This would help us to fund them for almost $62,000 over the next 2.5 fiscal years, which does help with their operational stability as well, and also gives the city some more leeway in the funding that they have available, as a lot of funding is starting to erode for cities, for counties, and just overall. So this funding helps to infuse that. We also have gap financing for the Porterville Navigation Center in tune of $868,000 to, again, help with operations. Our next activity is the 22 beds at Eden House, which we're also infusing funds in for almost $158,000. And then we have our administrative costs, which is a straight percentage, and not only do we fund our admin, but we have $14,527 that also go in to help support the homeless management information system. In previous rounds, we had tremendous more flexibility in what we could do with our funding. Predominantly, we've been aligning those funds either to help with the construction of housing projects, or like has been mentioned before, we did a $500,000 capital infusion with the Housing Authority's Home Key Plus application to cover pre-development costs. We're currently finalizing some agreements to go forward to inject funds into what are called COSRs, or Capitalized Operating Subsidy Reserves, for our two Home Key sites, Sequoia Village and Madison Gardens, that would provide long-term rental subsidies and operational supports for many years, hopefully. But under this round, it was interim only. Another component of this is that we are mandated to conduct stakeholder engagement and outreach, which we've been doing in each of our task force meetings, kind of taking chunks of this. So these are just the requirements directly from the regs themselves. But this list is showing our different meetings in which we did outreach. You can see our task force meetings are listed here for several months. We also did 2 sort of takeovers of the Bi-County Case Management Roundtable and discussed outreach in homeless mapping and response systems. And then the Kings County Homeless Collaborative, because again, this is Bi-County, they've had a couple of conversations there, as well as with the Kings Tulare Homeless Alliance membership meetings. After this meeting, we will put this meeting on this list as well, as this is stakeholder outreach. And in your handouts, you should have one that says HAP 6 documentation of stakeholder engagement. This is a capturing of some of the communication from our previous meetings, as well as the Bi-County case management meetings. There's a little bit more of, it's not necessarily verbatim, but a recap of our last meeting where we had some substantive discussion around the allocations. So we wanted to put this forward to see if anybody, would like to see maybe their voice modified or additional comments added in or corrections made. And then we have an additional page, which is the HAP 6 stakeholder group comments. On this page, you'll see a series of some checkbox at the top, and then the blank rows for making comment. Here, these are the stakeholder groups that the state mandates. These are all covered by voting members and such, but we want to ensure that we're capturing as many voices as possible. So we would ask that hopefully before you take off today, if you wouldn't mind just jotting down any thoughts at all. And if you don't have any, that's cool too. Or if you want to ponder on it and send it back to us, as long as we get it within the next week, we can put that into our application. But at the top, just go ahead and just check one of the boxes, please, because we put that information within specific cells. And while you might be representing more than one of these, we can't really just like duplicate the same comment and put it in 2 cells. So just choose the one that you feel most applies to you. And that's pretty much the review of HAP 6. Where we go from here, again, if the Board of Supervisors approves us on Tuesday, we then have the authority to apply for HAP 6. We will be hitting submit before Friday of next week. It then goes into the nebulous hole of time with the state, and they can take anywhere between 2 months to a year to get back to us. Then we get a standard agreement, and then we move forward from the standard agreement into our sub-agreements for each of these sites. The unfortunate thing is the timing of this. We're already in fiscal year 25, 26, and we don't have an agreement yet. People are incurring costs and fees. So I would make an assumption that once we are approved for this agreement, we'll have agreements that will look back. It is allowed by statute, so if our Board of Supervisors approves the look-back period to July 1 of this fiscal year, then any of these agencies that are funded would be able to apply those expenses into this funding stream. So that's basically where we're at now. It's open for discussion.
I just have one question. So this money, there has to be already an interim housing site. So I just noticed Tulare not in here, and that was the reason for that, right, Noah?
Yes, correct. Per the statutes, it had to be existing interim shelter sites that are providing services or operational. So since the Tulare shelter is not yet operational, we were prohibited from even considering them despite knowing that they have financial needs. This was one of the frustrating requirements of this funding stream.
Thank you.
I didn't turn my microphone on. I'm sorry, Donna. AJ, did you have a question? No. Okay. No other questions or comments? Is this an action item?
I would ask that the group considers a vote to approve the allocations as we've put forward and was recommended by our ad hoc committee.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, Mary Alice. Okay.
Actually, I think I might need, do I need to abstain since we're winning this year?
That's what
I think we had determined previously.
she doesn't personally,
Yeah.
It's
you're the attorney. If you, yeah, if
Yeah.
you want a perceived conflict, you certainly can.
I think it would be appropriate.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion by Dana, a second by
Me,
AJ?
Porterville,
Okay,
to approve,
all right.
move forward.
Let's do a roll call vote. Aye. Dana? Cecil?
Do solemnly swear.
Aye.
I
Okay, we have one abstain. Thank you. Okay, motion passes. We will put that forward to the board next week.
Should be running on Tuesday.
Okay, thanks, Noah.
If it doesn't run on Tuesday, I will be.
I'll be there on Tuesday. Where are you going to be? Okay, our next item is the President's Executive Order naming ending crime and disorder on America's streets. Did I say that kind of funny? Sorry. So for those of you who don't know, I got the stuff here. In July, the president did an executive order addressing homelessness. It's anticipated to have significant impacts on how we address homelessness in the future. The work the city, the counties, partnering community-based organizations do to connect and provide services to the vulnerable population will most likely come with a different approach to those that suffer from behavioral health conditions. The order includes placing restricted services for undocumented individuals along with increasing forced restrainment. Thank you. I said beer. No, just kidding. Thanks, Adriana. The order includes the following as outlined in the order itself, but further guidance is expected. And there is a copy of the full order here, but just some of the things are expanded criminalization of homelessness, expanded use of civil commitments and forced treatment for individuals with mental health and substance use disorders. Not like we didn't already want to do that. It's where do we do that? Reduce funding for housing and homelessness programs that promote housing first principles, and reduced funding for harm reduction activities. Noah, would you like to expand any more on this before we have any questions or discussions?
Sure, this is a ball of fun.
I mean, it's going to require expansion of, like, state hospitals, which we don't have anymore much of?
Yeah, I think the biggest elements of this, and we don't know yet, and the state doesn't know yet either, but in all likelihood, this will result in some pretty significant legal action between the state and the federal government, especially around Housing First. Since the pandemic, the state really has mandated and required by law that our projects all be Housing First. So now if we potentially lose access to federal funding like HUD grants, which would directly impact the Housing Authority, and then our projects, we could have a very, very significant issue on our hands. Because if you can't take a housing choice voucher into a Housing First program, how do people get housed? So either the requirement has to be stripped from the state for these sites to be Housing First, or the feds have to say, just kidding, you can keep people in Housing First programs. I don't know where it's gonna go, but that puts us in the lurch because this executive order is in effect and the California laws requiring us to be Housing First are in effect. So we're in a bit of a quandary at the moment. Harm reduction is also a big issue here. There's so much evidence about the effectiveness of harm reduction strategies in reducing negative outcomes, also in reducing costs to jurisdiction for medical care and recovery care. It's just ridiculous how much data there is supporting harm reduction strategies. So for now, eliminating those will also create significant issues in our community. The increase in civil commitments, which communities across the state are already grappling with care court. This would presumably be a further extension of care court, which, I mean, they just, at least in California, we opened up those parameters through care court for who qualifies for services. CalAIM has opened up who qualifies for services. So that part of it is a little less concerning because I think California was already heading down the road of opening up some of this, but also making them clear pathways so people won't be long-term institutionalized. So I do think there's a little bit of alignment there, but still how the federal government decides to implement that policy will have major impacts on our local communities across the state, access to hospitals and institutions, which there aren't enough of, and they take years and years to construct. So I think we've got some issues there. The criminalization of homelessness, we know it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work, and now the executive order is going to be requiring that. That will create further barriers for people entering into housing, further disruptions in, say, their ability to go to work or do things like that, and disruption to their stability overall.
But we're not saying that, I mean, if somebody's committed a crime,
Yeah.
there are the consequences that should be paid outside. I mean, just being homeless shouldn't be a crime, but if somebody is homeless and they commit a crime,
Correct, yeah.
we're not saying that shouldn't happen, that there should not be consequences for that.
Correct, yeah, and this is more the criminalization of homelessness itself, staying outdoors. But if somebody's breaking into vehicles, vandalizing,
Right.
Yeah, those things need to be enforced. The truth of the matter is, if you look at this executive order and you look at Governor Newsom's executive order from a few months ago, there's more overlap than there's not. So this executive order, really large portions of it fall into alignment with Governor Newsom's executive order. It's just on some of these significant issues like Housing First that we need a tremendous amount of more clarity, and we need it rapidly so that we know our projects are stable. We have 2 more Home Key Plus projects that are under application. If housing vouchers are eroded from that and the state doesn't budge on Housing First, we're gonna have to have some real substantive conversations around how do we keep these projects flowing. So those, to me, those are really the two big ones.
Any questions, comments for Noah, or any editorials? Yeah.
I just making sure that we have that flexibility. If we don't have to use Housing First, we at least know that it works, that we've been able to house many people in the last 7 years through our accordion entry system. With the flexibility of wraparound services, it does take time for folks to want to connect to services. It is impossible, almost impossible, to connect someone to services when they're unhoused. It's cold, it's hot, it's rainy. there's so much trauma, they're being attacked on a daily basis, harassed. So just, it's important, I think, as a community that we remember what works. Trauma-informed care works, harm reduction does work. There's a lot of data out there that can support the work that we do. And we can still use housing first, even if it's not a requirement. Our new contracts from HUD state that we don't have to, so it's already starting. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't. We could still use it, use trauma-informed care, and really support people. Because if we start to force people into these types of programs, treatment programs, they're really not going, it's gonna be really hard to move people into housing. So I think it's important that we stick with some flexibility at least.
I think from my perspective and what I'm hearing from the federal government right now is, I don't think they're gonna give grant-based programs that option. And the agency, I'm not speaking for nonprofits, I don't know all of your funding sources, but from a county perspective, a lot of our money is linked to federal dollars. I wouldn't be surprised if the governor doesn't switch. I mean, he could be losing a lot of money coming into California, and other counties we're all fighting for the same money, and the voucher connection is huge for us. And so I just want to point out that he is really talking about forcing people into services as that carrot and stick. I think somebody mentioned that earlier, and that's his way of basically saying, why are we paying for people's housing and subsidizing their housing if they're not willing to participate to better themselves and move themselves down a trajectory of self-sufficiency? And I really think that's what our federal administration is really pushing at this time. So just keep that in mind. We hear about it every day, and they keep changing their mind, and then they add something else. And so we're trying to follow it as closely as we can on what we think that'll be. But like Noah said, nothing's in writing yet. We'll just see what happens.
To add on to, it's layered, this is layered on with SB 43, the expansion of who can be placed on a 5150 hold, which is going to be going live in Tulare County in December of this year. And so the expanded criteria is someone that is in an unsafe housing situation, untreated substance use disorder, and untreated medical condition is what is added to a qualifying 5150 hold. And so it's layered, right? The executive order, SB 43, there's pending legislation to expand care court criteria to include bipolar disorder. So there's a lot of discussion at the state level of that expansion. Prop 36 is another impact as we see, as people are incarcerated and then diverted into treatment, and it's mandated treatment. So we're really seeing this pendulum switch over to mandated treatment. And so this kind of all layers onto one another. So I just want to call out the big picture.
Another item that is sort of buried towards the back of the executive order, it's not directly stated, but it feels to me that part of what's going to occur with this also is a mandate for law enforcement to be allowed access to HMIS. That's what I read between the lines here, but they do state very clearly an expansion of who has access to the HMIS database up into the federal government. So that's another one of these provisions that will impact our system. I think as relates to our previous item around HAP, when we were specifically in the stakeholder meetings, there already is, and it's important just to recognize our system as it is, there is a lot of tension between service providers and law enforcement because there are some mandates there that can conflict around law enforcement has a very clear job to do, enforce the laws, keep the properties cleaned, do those sorts of things. Service providers are trying to reach people where they're at, and when law enforcement needs to move people along, it breaks that relationship with service providers. So there is some potential negative implications around HMIS, but I also like to look at silver linings, where if we do have law enforcement present within HMIS, hopefully we can get more accurate address information and contact information, which then could potentially aid service providers in keeping in communication with the people that they're serving. But how all of this will square up with privacy laws and things like that, I think we'll have to wait and see.
All right, Noah, thank you for the update.
Quick tack on to that too, because I felt that these articles were just somewhat related to the landscape of homelessness and the things like the executive order. So we shared a document in this handout that's a news article about new laws signed by Governor Newsom. Two of them have the potential to impact housing in positive ways. But there is another article about a court case that's working its way through the system that's a sister case to one that already went to the Supreme Court. And this could impact the ability of jurisdictions to collect certain impact fees, and predominantly a fee that's placed on new housing units that helps to fund affordable housing. So if this case goes through and it's deemed that that is a violation of Fifth Amendment rights, it's going to significantly undermine the state's ability to fund low-income housing without new action. I didn't share an article, but I had been reading also that in the budget bill at the federal government, there are some potential tax credits for low-income housing. So even if this case goes through, maybe we'll see a wash there at best, but it's good to know that there's these different chips that are sort of in play at the moment that could have significant impacts, both positive and negative, on our development of affordable housing pipeline, and in particular have massive impacts on self-help and other developers. So I just wanted to let folks know those articles are included.
Thanks, Noah. Okay, we will move on to our next item, which is voting member roundtable updates and discussion. Ma'am, any updates you'd like to share? Never feel like you have to.
No, I think for us, just plugging away at the Navigation Center, we certainly do have beds available right now, and we're working through some of the referrals. One of the projects we are going to be working with is creating a community garden on the site. So we're super excited about that, and trying to create some farm-to-table menus at the Navigation Center, so.
Very cool.
And, oh, I will share, CSID is hosting the Christmas tree auction this year.
Yes.
And if you haven't received a card, you probably received 2 of them already. But I hope you have at least.
Drew was passing them out today at the State of Local Government.
Yes, so we're super excited. That would help benefit the Navigation Center as well as some of CSID's other safety net programs. So December 5th at the Convention Center. It's going to be wonderful to kind of share this, bring the philanthropic community back out, and all of our partners to celebrate with us. So I will be hitting you up if I haven't already. So look out for a card or a request. But anyways, thank you, everyone.
It's also the Source Gala that night there, so I'm going to hop between.
That works.
I don't know what, I think I already have tickets for the Source, so I'm just going to crash your party.
That's okay.
Okay.
I want down to 15.
All right. Anybody else have any updates they want to share? Porterville, Claudia, AJ, any updates?
No, we got nothing to read. I was just talking to my
Okay.
number 1 person, and we're good. There's nothing new to
Don't
report.
you forget that.
No, she's number 1.
All right, Margie?
We currently have ANOFA open right now for a seasonal emergency shelter, basically the warming center for the next 5 years. Heads up.
That's Visalia.
For the Visalia Warming Center. It'll run for fiscal year 25-26 through fiscal year 29-30. This is with the use of our PLHA funds. On average, the Warming Center has received about 15% of our annual allocation. PLHA funds do fluctuate, so every year it will fluctuate, so it is nice that they're included in the HAP 6 allocation.
That's great.
So thank you for
That's
that.
always-
And then,
yeah.
second, our CAPER is currently underway. 15-day public comment period will begin next Friday, August 29th through September 15th. The upcoming community meetings that are available are going to be the CAC, Wednesday, September 3rd at 5:30, and of course, the City Council public hearing, Monday, September 15th at 7. You're all welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Erica, any big projects with self-help or anything? Oh, we'll wait. Okay. Sure, yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Cisco?
This certainly probably isn't the time. I would just like to be able to share with you sometime just the observations I've made recently in these rooms and some of the other civic meetings, how the sausage is made. And I am incredibly appreciative and in awe of Noah and yourself and many others, Mary, and the work that you guys do and the odds that are against you. I attended the most boring meeting in the world last night. Noah was there.
Let me guess. I'm not, wait, let me write it down.
It was the planning commission.
That's what I was writing down.
Addressing the city council of, yeah, you probably would better say what it is, but anyway.
They can be boring, but a lot of work gets done, and it's necessary work to talk about that, because it's planning the future growth and whatnot. Did that sound good?
Yes, in a nutshell, the part that was most important is the zoning ordinance changing how far or the distance that emergency shelters could be at certain locations, including residential or commercial. It actually reduced it, so it gave it more flexibility than it had in the past.
Yeah, that was the good news. No, and I'm being serious. I know I'm a clown, and so everything, nobody takes me serious. But listen, in all earnest, I really was, just astounded by the predicament that our civic leaders are in, the people who are making decisions are in. And I want to take my hat off to Brandon Smith and his, first of all, he's probably like the smartest guy, Rain Man smart, right? And then he's trying to explain to city council how things work. And they're saying things, I won't say any names of people, but then they're like, well, can't we just change the zoning for the downtown because downtown area fits all the criteria, all the bullet points that are mandatory by the state that you have to meet to have a low barrier emergency shelter, that it just really, everything's covered in downtown, including the fact that it's mixed use. And so designated that, and they're actually asking Brandon, if you can fudge things to try to manipulate that so it's not zoned that in downtown, because it's just, and so I understand the urgency to not have something downtown. Another thing they said is you can't build a block wall around it like they did just recently. You can't do that if they do something. So anyway, they're like really scared about it, and they're like panicking, and he's like, dude, we can't do that. We'll get kicked out of the club. Like, we'll be off the list to get anything if we start fudging things like that and trying to manipulate things. And they're just mortified that the best place for something, an emergency low barrier shelter, might be in the downtown mixed use area. And so I think one of the other bullet points that was important to me is that it would need to be well managed if it's in this. And so I take that as a personal, challenge. And so I'm excited to see where it goes. But once again, I just want to say I've always respected you and I love your style. But just knowing what you guys have to do, Noah and Amy and many others, I don't want to leave anybody out, but
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. I appreciate.
And it's hopeless.
And
No.
thank you, and thank you for attending that meeting.
Yeah,
That's the important part.
I don't know if
People
you
need to
could-
attend those meetings and get involved and hear what's going on, so thank you for doing that.
I'm also approaching this today with quite a bit more respect than I did the last time I was here. I mean, I like to joke around. And so I even wore a clean shirt today, so really respecting what you guys do.
You
I'm
can
out.
wear whatever you want. Thank you.
I think one of the other like main outcomes of the meeting, as my takeaway was, is that of all of the different zones, there was only one zone that didn't have enough acreage to qualify for by right development. But my takeaway was that all other zones in the city were eligible for by right development. So hopefully I ingested that correctly.
Okay, we'll move on from that one, Margie. No, no, I just, you're the Visalia person here, we don't want you to get. Okay, anybody else have a burning desire? Okay. All right, so our next meeting is September 17th, and unfortunately, I will not be here. I will be at, every year we have our we belong to the Rural Counties of California organization, which lobbies and advocates for rural counties. So we have our annual meeting that week, so I will not be here. So with that, thank you, everybody, and our meeting is adjourned. Cisco, I want to